Recently I did a video showing different methods on how to do beading, and I am now working on a shawl by Helen Stewart, the amulet shawl that has a lot of beads. I took the opportunity to try using the Fleegle Beader again because there was lots and lots of practice here. I started out using my Yuki beads, which are these nice little red beads here, and they're along here, and everything was going swimmingly with not very good technique, no problem whatsoever. This is the size 1.3 millimeter, and the hook is a little bit larger than the hook on the 1.0 millimeter. Now on the 1.0 millimeter, it is a little bit harder to not catch the yarn, but I played around with it and came up with a technique that I think works pretty well. The reason I had to do this is because the Toho beads turned out to be a little bit narrower than the holes in the Mayuki beads, and I started out using the larger Fleegle Beader and it was getting caught. I couldn't even bring the bead over the yarn at all. And actually, even with the smaller size, I still have that problem with some of the beads. What I've been doing is just putting them aside, and if I run out of beads, I'll go back and use the old dental floss method because that's very forgiving for the hole size and so forth. But let me show you the technique that I kind of worked out with this. So taking my sample again, which we did in the last video, I have the gray yarn is the row I'm knitting, and the black yarn is the upcoming row. So if I were to come along here and knit, and excuse me, there's a slip stitch there, and put a new bead on, what I would do is I would take the Fleegle Beader and take the little spiky bit here and put the spiky bit up towards the sky or to the top, slide a bead down, and while I'm doing so, really pinch this yarn very tightly and kind of hold it taut so that none of the yarn is sticking above the spike, because I think that's what shreds the yarn. So what I do with this tightly pulled yarn is I slide the bead off the end and then down onto the yarn. And that seems to be a little bit more forgiving than trying to pull it from the side or pull the yarn through or so on. And that has worked pretty well, as I said, other than the times where a bead is too small, and I happen to have one here that is too small, so I'll show you how that works. It's a little bit of an unpleasant surprise when it happens, but every now and then it looks like it should work just like the others do. But I go and I take the stitch off using the little hook part of this, face the hook upwards, pinch the yarn very tightly, slide the bead up, and it doesn't want to go even though I have the yarn nice and tight. So there's just not enough room in that hole to accommodate the two threads here from the stitch and the beader itself. Not the beetle, the beader. So if we go to another bead, let's get that little hook up to the top, pinch the yarn really tight and kind of pull it down so it's really taut. Take the bead, slide it to the end and down onto the yarn. And that seems to be working pretty well, except for those few beads that are very small. This seems to be working really well and have been very gentle on the yarn. Unfortunately, I discovered this the hard way. I did do a little bit of yarn shredding with these Toho beads on my project, but once I started working this out, it seems to be working just fine. And when I do hit a bead that's really, really tiny, I just put it aside and not try to struggle with it. There's plenty of beads in my bin. I can just go back and get more. And if I have to go back and use the beads with the tiny holes, as I said, I'll use dental floss and not the Fleegle Beader. Bottom line, I'm pretty happy with it. It's a lot faster than using dental floss, and I think a little bit faster than using crochet hook. And I think I'll keep trying to use this, and happy that I found this method. It seems to work the best for me. So good luck with your beading. Bead on.